Welcome back to Walsall Fan TV. Fan chat time, the Wembley special. Still buzzing after Friday. We're going to talk about Wembley, what that means to us, and all the emotions around that, and where we are with the debate on Matt Sadler. After we've sort of regained our composure. First of all, go to say hi to Frankie, Phil, and Darren. Daz is going to try and join us as well, but we'll see whether he can make it and catch him in a little bit later. Frankie, have you got your voice back? On the fan reaction, you were sort of a little bit hoarse, and like many of us were.
I'm guessing it'll be back for Monday.
It'll be back for Monday. So the emotion going through all of that, we did say that if Walsall actually do get promoted, it'll be more relief than elation, but it did feel quite elated on Friday. It was quite a special day, wasn't it? Darren, it was always going to be the awkward way for Walsall to try and do something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what? I was more nervous on Friday than I was the first game, because the first game, after what happened at the end of the season, and we all know what we went through, I was a bit like I'll put my hands up. I was completely resigned to getting battered at Chesterfield. So I was like, it was like no pressure almost. Maybe that's what the players felt as well, to be honest with you. Maybe.
Well, I think I was
so nervous Friday.
I think going into the game 2-0 up, there was the expectation again. It was in just over the two games. Over the two games, it was like almost a microcosm of the season, wasn't it? First half went so well. Second half, the fear.
You know what? When I looked around, funnily enough, I was mentioning my mate Percy, who some of you might know, who sits in the upper as well. I looked round at him because I know where he sits. When Levi missed that chance, right? Do you know that? How we missed that? It was like Mo Farr last year.
He's so composed. He's so composed, Manchi. I can't understand how he missed it.
Yeah. Anyway, I looked round at him. And I'm sure this is the same emotion that most of us had. I looked around and I thought, oh no, like
yeah,
what we all know what's going to happen, but it didn't. And I can't say too much more than that, really. Just I'm relief the day after, but the night was just amazing. I said to my dad that was probably top 1 or 2 atmospheres I've experienced since the camp was built. Like, it was party time and it was brilliant. People standing up in the upper tier and middle tier, like it was like this is what it should be. And I'm still
a great feeling. Such a great feeling to be part of. Phil, we've missed you for a couple of them with your holiday and that sort of stuff. So good to have you back with us.
Thank you.
What a memorable night, eh? That'll sort of stay with us and maybe bring on some new fans for next season, you think?
Hopefully not the ones that ran on the pitch at the end, but that's something we might discuss later. But I think I was a bit like Darren. I was a little bit nervous going in because even though we did a great job in the first leg, I think it was that feeling of the first goal being absolutely crucial. And if Chesterfield get the first goal, I feared that maybe some of our frailties of the second half of the season might come to the surface, but they didn't. And I thought, for what it's worth, I think we played it really well in the second leg. We kept it tight. I wasn't expecting us to go out and be particularly expansive in the second game. I always thought the game would pan out the way it did. And I just felt in the second half, obviously the longer it stayed at 0-0, the more they had to commit forward, the more they had to try and get that goal, and things opened up for us. And as we've already mentioned, we should have taken the lead earlier when Amanchi somehow missed that chance from the George Hall run. But we got there in the end, and thanks to 2 bits of quality from Albert Adoma setting up both goals. It was a great night. The atmosphere was brilliant. The stadium was rocking. It was a really good night. And I'm just glad that I have my reservations about whether we'd be able to raise ourselves to the playoffs. But on the evidence of the first 2 games, we've done it. And I say let's hope we get over the final hurdle now.
Well, that's that's the big question, I suppose. But just coming to Frankie on that, I think the way that we approached the second leg, we were all nervous. The Walsall just try and hold on. But I mean, we started the game so much on the front foot. It was like, we get a goal here and it's all over. So that was pleasing to see. I know it sort of turned into a rear guard as the game went on. But I mean, we started it in a positive way, didn't we?
It was a great tactic. Sadler doesn't usually do great tactics, but that was one of his probably greatest tactics today, because instead of, he came out at the forefront so they couldn't go an early goal. And if we got an early goal, what a different game that could have been as well. And then he sat in, allowed the pressure to be soaked in, and allowed us to defend until we got the first goal. And until they made the critical decision of bringing on a striker and changing their style of football just so they can get a goal, did that give us the opening. And the subs he made, it was all over. It was a brilliant game from management to players. It was perfect. And the fans were perfect. The noise is one of the biggest noise. It felt like an away day at home.
I suppose that is a perfect description, really. It was like an away day with 8,500 fans there, and that's the kind of, like, in going back a few years, my biggest frustration with watching Walsall has been lack of atmosphere, and if only we could be getting that kind of attendance for most home games. I remember back when we were in the Championship, and every game there was much bigger attendance, and it just made a whole new level of spectacle. To have that emotion, and the atmosphere is so much better with 7.5 as opposed to 4.5 in. Darren, you want to comment on that?
Yeah. A couple of things on that, like that. I think that should be. We've proved at the state that we can. It's not the stadium legit, like, sort of dynamics with sound. If that stadium's got happy fans that are like seeing football that they're enjoying, as in on Friday, the noise is. I mean, I had to get out early at the end, not before the final whistle, just to be clear, just to get back, and I could hear it like a good. I parked my car way away, and I could hear it like proper loud, and I was like, "Oh my god!" We never hear that, do we? And I think personally, it depends. Obviously, if we're in League One or League Two, we'll get to that in a bit. But having the fans and the away fans in the corner like that, I think helped as well, in terms of having fans behind the goal at both goals. I mean, most clubs do that now as well. So I think that's something they should probably look at, or giving the away fans half the family stand and having behind the goal. But Ben Sadler's job, I think now, is to, we've seen what happens when we have a 9,000 or so attendance. It's trying to, we're not going to get that every week, obviously, but like, if we can get into the 7s or even 8s on a regular basis, then it's just a lot more It's more enjoyable for the kids, the day trippers, the people who've just come for the first time. So it just makes a massive difference, I think.
Yeah, I think anything over 7,500 and it really rocks in there, having that bigger attendance. Coming to Phil, we've had sort of comments from sort of different teams, sort of from Port Vale and Chesterfield fans, and saying like, "Oh, you're not selling out your allocation at home," and that sort of thing. The likes of Chesterfield have had recent success. I know a lot of investment, particularly. I know they made a $3.5 million loss getting promoted from the National League, which is something that Walsall would never be able to go into that sort of that realm. But they've had recent success, and that brings supporters with it. Same with Port Vale. They've had good investment. They've had promotions recently, obviously a relegation as well. But there's been a lot of success. If you look at Walsall history, we haven't really had a promotion since, 2003?
It was I think I'm right in saying it was 2006-07. I think was the last promotion season.
Oh, of course, we went back up and then back down again, didn't we?
The Richard Money season. I think it was 2006-2007. But yeah, you're right. It's been near enough 20 years since we had a promotion, which is a hell of a long time. Feels like longer, but yeah, it's a long time. Yeah, and you're right. We've got to, if we get promoted, which obviously we're one game away, you've got to try and strike when the iron's hot. We've had more fans in, particularly in the second half of the season than we normally get, and obviously the playoff game was near enough a sellout. There's a couple of things that I think we need to look at as far as attendance is concerned. One is the price of getting in. I think it's, if you just pay off for a one-off game, it's about 26, 27 quid to get in for a one-off game in the top two, which is quite a lot of money. And there's people out there that will not be able to afford to pay that every game. So that's one thing that perhaps need to look at. But yeah, certainly try and think of some way of incentivizing people to come next season. I think the fans have been absolutely brilliant this season, home and away. I think the support's been phenomenal. I think particularly for the playoffs, because let's face it, the second half of the season was a bit of a disaster. The fact that we're even in the playoffs still irks me a little bit. We should have got automatic promotion, but I think the fans have parked any reservations that they might have about Sadler and about things that have happened in the second half of the season. That's a conversation for another day. I think when they've seen that what we've needed to do in the last few games is just 100% back the team, back the players to try and get them over the line, and that's what they've done, and I'm sure it'll be the same next Monday.
Keeping building up the core support, Frankie. I think you need evidence of either a lot of money coming into the club or success. So that's the only way to build core support, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about having like a smell or a kind of feeling that this team will be or could be successful, and that is maybe through money. But it's an idea of fans coming to you. But it's especially really hard for a club like us, because we've got 4 big teams around us with that draw massive crowds naturally. And if we play on a Saturday at 3:00 and most of the clubs are playing at that time, it's very hard for us to draw the attendances that we need to get. So it's about drawing the large amount of fans that don't go to the bigger games and try and bring them to us and just try and indoctrinate them. So it's going to be very hard to do, because unlike other teams that might be on the big teams in the area, we have to compete with even bigger teams. But it's about, as long as we look successful and look like we're progressing every year, people will kind of will put time and effort into watching us, because then they'll think, oh, I'll get something out, I'll get a trip at Wembley, or I'll get a trophy lift or something amazing to watch every single season. But we have to progress.
Yeah, I think because obviously you have the joy of being the young view or the younger view, and compared to us oldies. But
a VAR on that, Simon. Thank you.
Getting the school kids offer that they do through the foundation is a massive one. I've got Adam Davey. He's coming on the show on Thursday to sort of review what's been going on with the foundation. But that's the step, as Frankie says. If we're looking like we're achieving stuff and we're going places, yes, it might be little Walsall compared to the likes of Villa, Albion, and the Wolves and Blues and that sort of stuff. But I mean, the local team, and I think it's a 2-stage thing. It's, can we get the youngsters continuing to come? And then there's the other fans, like the stay away fans that disappeared in the Bonser era. I think a lot of those haven't returned yet. So maybe if we can get promotion, get back into League One, maybe that's when people will come back. Do you think that'll happen, Darren, or do you think people have sort of given up and won't return?
Well, people just, I mean, we know the damage that was done during the Bonser era. Like, as you know, I was quite involved, shall we say, in the whole Unity stuff. Oh my God, how long ago was that? 15 years ago. Even then, there was cracks and defragmentation and people getting, little cliques and stuff. And for me, it's about having an identity. And we were just so fragmented for so long from the club and the supporters. I'm not surprised people walked away, to be honest with you. I never would, but I'm not surprised people did. And what Ben Sadler's doing or done, you could say, or in the process of doing, is we're just building an identity. And as you mentioned, Simon, that I've had some close contact with the foundation. Absolutely superb. So big up Max, who's one of the foundation chaps. He's superb, and the offers that they're having in. We've took as you know, I'm a manager of an under-8s team, and we've come as flag bearers, and all these types of things and initiatives that they're doing are super important because they weren't being done before, right? Yeah. These sort of things weren't happening. The Sadler's club had gone to ruin. They got the Locker now as a facility. It just feels a lot. It feels a lot more like happier, and there's more of an identity. And just one thing on that, Simon, I'll finish my speech, is I've seen on social media, like last night, a lot of ex-players there at the game last night, which I think is great because we should be leaning on these. And that seems to happen at other clubs, right? There's a big reverence for old players. And I was talking to Darren Rack today at football, and which is every time I see him, I'm like linking away. And like he was saying the same, like but he told me 6 weeks ago, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. And he was right. Well, a little bit right. But I think having that old, that identity, old players, new fans, it's all got to come together. It's not one thing like new supporters, getting it's all of it. It's got to be like a package for me. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think we sort of touched on foundation. As you may or may not know, Adam and James Chambers are still involved with the Walsall Foundation, and Don Goodman. So that connection, once people have had a connection with Walsall, they sort of want to keep it. And that's it was nice to see Nathan Lowe come back for the game as well. It's sort of like having made a big impact here. It's obviously had a big impact on him as a person. So his connection is with us now. So hopefully we get him back at some point. But that's going to be a whole new challenge. So the Phil, we're just going to keep it going, haven't we? I want to move on to Wembley. So your memory of what happened in 2015?
Not much, to be honest with you. I said earlier off camera to Darren, I felt that our last trip to Wembley for me was a massive anticlimax. Probably not helped by the fact that we didn't really turn up for the game, and we lost pretty convincingly. But I'm not massive on the whole Wembley thing. I never have been. It's a bit of a ball ache to get to, isn't it? It's expensive, and I fully appreciate the fact that I'm quite miserable generally, but it's never done a lot for me. Wembley for me, it's about the outcome. Obviously I will be there because but for me it's not really about the venue. It's about the game. It's about the outcome of the game and the end result. So I'm not massively excited about Wembley per se. For me, it's just about getting there and getting the job done. For me, it's just like another league game. It's where we've ended up from the position that we were in. Obviously, I'm glad that we're there. I think, as we mentioned earlier, I have my reservations about whether we would have enough to raise ourselves to get there. But we're there, and I'll be there to cheer the boys on, and hopefully we'll finish it off. And I think that I think I'm glad that the novelty factor of it being the first trip to Wembley is out the way. I'm glad we got that out of the way in the JTP final, and that it will just be about, I think it will be just the hardcore Walsall supporters plus a few extras that want to come along. I don't think it'll be like the JTP final when I was going down on the coach, and there was a few Villa fans behind me, a few West Brom fans in front of me, a few Wolves fans next to me. I don't think it'll be like that. I think it'll be much more the hardcore Walsall supporters who will be there.
Yeah, I think that's the point. But I think because of what sort of Ben Sadler has done, as as Darren sort of pointed out, really, it's sort of he's making great strides. I want to sort of refer back to the match preview with Chesterfield and Phil Tooley. There's quite a few said he talked quite a lot, which I think he did. But I mean, he talked about how much they're doing with families and bringing the kids in and developing that. And then I think it was 2 days after that, Walsall get the award for a gold award for commitment to families and that sort of stuff ahead of Chesterfield. So it just shows we might not be singing it from the rooftops, but Walsall are doing a lot of things very, very good indeed. Yes, we know the season sort of had a very large blip, and hopefully we can sort of get over it and finish on. So Frankie, Wembley. So what's your thoughts of getting to Wembley?
Now, as I said before, there's nothing better than getting promoted for the playoffs. Yeah. It's you get to do a special trophy lift, and it's going to be interesting. As long as the atmosphere is good, and that will add to the game, the atmosphere, and then the match itself, and then hopefully we come out on top with the win, and then that means that we can win. That means we get promoted to League One. And I had to Phil, he was saying, "Oh, those are the fans from the clubs at the last game." Well, luckily, Aston Villa went to Wembley, and Blues have already been to Wembley, meaning that the fans of those clubs who said, "I just want to go to Wembley," won't need to because they might have already gone already. So that's been taken away. The Premier League's still happening. It's the day after the Premier League, so you're still going to have fans that. So meaning there's more chance of it probably being core Walsall fans and a better atmosphere and the flags and everything before the game. As long as before the game is good, and then the game itself, and then after the game, if we've won, it'll be amazing. It'll be a great experience.
Yeah. I just got to put this comment up because Stephen's talked about this, and I think Frankie's mentioned it as well. Uncle Albert to score his 100th goal at Wembley to seal promotion. What do you reckon, Frankie? You think that's is that in the stars?
Not just the score at Wembley. It will be the winning goal at Wembley. So yeah.
That would be very nice. Darren's got some smiles on that one, haven't you?
Yeah. I can't bloody go as well, which is what I'm fuming about. When we were 15 points clear, you think, oh, it's half term for the kids, so we're away in Menorca, so I'll be watching it obviously from there. But just to echo what Phil was saying and with what we said off camera, I hated that 2015 game. It was all Villa fans, Wolves fans, just not bothered, just there. And it was we needed our, the people you see away every week or at home every week. Those are the people that it's meant for. But Uncle Albert, I tell you what, just segueing slightly into the game Friday, what a cameo. What brilliant. And he was playing out wide, which I don't want to be too negative.
Early in the season, he'd been coming off the bench to great effect, hadn't he? Why we started playing him at centre forward, I don't know, but
no idea. He's played there all his career, hasn't he? Really out wide, especially on the right.
That's it. He's a creator, isn't he?
I'm trying my best to be happy.
We got to stay positive. My thoughts of the Wembley in 2015. It was just an absolutely superb day for me until 3:15, really. So up to that point, I got my two young boys with me and my wife with me and that sort of stuff, and it was just great until 3:15, and then it sort of like
the Green Man was fantastic before with all the Walsall fans and everything, and he sort of went downhill after that point. But
I remember as we were going in, there's this guy singing Walsall FC from the Black Country. And it's sort of like a really broad Black Country accent sort of thing. And Stephen was sort of repeating that for probably the next 6 months, really. So, so that was good. So we're looking forward to Wembley. Wimbledon Wimbledon and Walsall, because somebody raised me a question that will we get a ticket? And I said, well, hang on, it's Walsall and Wimbledon going in a 100,000 seater stadium. I think we'll be okay. so that's the essence. So I don't think we've got the same bun fight for a ticket as we had before. But we've got to. I've just got a little interesting message coming up here. DJ to score last minute winner. I can't see that happening. I can't see him playing, to be honest.
I don't think he'll be in the squad.
No. How about Ethan Wheatley to score the winner?
Won't be in the squad.
Memories to be made. Millennium Stadium still vivid in my mind, says Troy. This should be a moment of treasure for years to come. Yeah, Darren Boyfield's winner, and it's typical of games like that. I can remember saying to somebody on the way out of the stadium after we'd come from behind to win 3-2, and I referred to the first match of the season. I think it was Rotherham, and we'd come from behind to win 3-2 in the first game of the season, and I said how apt that sort of we did that again, and they looked at me as if to say, what was that? They had no recollection of all the pain of the whole of the season, like the rest of us had. Can I sort of switch things up a little bit? Matt Sadler. Sadler is our king, and everything up to the end of January had us lauding him as a king without doubt. But obviously in February, March and April and half of May, things went wrong. But given that he is still a relatively inexperienced manager, how do you rate the fact that he's turned it round like he has? Because we've seen so many managers, so many good managers, when they go on a losing run, they just can't turn it round. So the fact that Matt Sadler has, what's your thoughts? Anybody jump in first?
I can go first if you want. So I'm trying to remain positive the next week or two. Okay. I think Dad said on the last one before last, even if we do go up, the last 3 or 4 months do not go away, right? Yeah. That didn't happen by accident. That was an unusually long bad run, right? That's never been seen before in Football League history, right? So fully on board with the fact that he's learning, young manager. I'll put my hands up. I didn't think we'd get to Wembley. No chance. So the way we set up in the last 3 or 4 games, can't fault it. Subs were right on Friday as well. However, if we don't go up, right, which again, not trying to be negative, but that could happen, right? I still think there's got to be a serious conversation. The club won't get rid of him. Let's put it, it's pointless thinking about will he be sacked or not, because I don't think there's any universe where that happens. But we should be promoted by now, personally, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. We've had a great, week. It's been superb. Not taking anything away from that, but all that means nothing if we don't beat Wimbledon, in my humble opinion.
Yeah. Phil?
I pretty much agree with everything that Darren has just said. There's just one slight thing I would quibble in terms of the way we've set up in the last few games. I like the fact that he's playing Chang and Sturk. I think that's worked really well in the playoffs, and I've got absolutely no doubt that he will stick with that formation for the Wimbledon game. I think the Wimbledon game is going to be a very, very tight game. Both of the league games against them have been incredibly tight games. Taylor Allen saved us at the end with a free kick in the home game. We won the away game 1-0, but it was a very tight match. I think it's interesting that they're down there as one of the lowest scorers in the division, but they only conceded 35 goals, I think it was, in the league. They really don't concede many goals, and my concern would be playing Jammer as a solo striker. That's the
Absolutely.
one. That's the one thing about the setup of the team that I think we need to look at. I don't want to go in hard on Jammer because I love Jammer. I think he's done much better than we all thought he would do this season, but he looks knackered, and I think he's offered virtually nothing from an attacking point of view in the last few games. And I think that's something. If you're playing a solo striker, you need somebody who's got some legs and has got better mobility than Jammer. Yeah. I think he will start with him, but I think one of the changes, Darren mentioned the substitutions, and I think it was noticeable how much more of a threat we looked going forward after he'd taken Jammer off.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. Sorry, I missed that off of mine, Phil, but yeah. He looked absolutely off his feet, and you need a mobile striker up top on the road.
Let's go, Frankie. Your thoughts on that?
Well, with Phil's with the Jammer, the first leg against Chesterfield, he played probably 10 more extra minutes than he should have. Everyone in that stadium, all the Walsall fans were just screaming, "Get him off! Get Jammer off the pitch!" He wasn't winning any balls. He wasn't doing anything. And then he brings Amanchi on, and Amanchi has that shot that the keeper saves and it hits the crossbar. It's just there are small things that he makes mistakes which haven't cost us this in the playoffs, have cost us in the league. And so it's caused, they're just little things that because he's inexperienced, he doesn't see the things that we see, or he's like, So I don't mind Jammer. He plays well as a defensive player at the moment. He's better defensive than he is attacking. And that's a bit worrying. But then one other thing is the formation that he's used now, the last 3 games have been amazing. But the 2 games he used it beforehand, with Accrington and Newport, we didn't see a goal, and we conceded a goal. And there's problems to do with that it took him that long to change formation and change things. These are just a little bit of picks at Sadler, but he just changed. It took him so long, and these things, if a better manager would have changed it straight away, and this formation has worked. But if he'd just done this 5 weeks earlier, we would be promoted right now. We would be in League One.
Yeah, Simon, I think that's the frustration, isn't it?
Sorry, Simon. I think that box midfield, like we've had the last 3 or 4 games, I think it works against a possession-based team like Chesterfield, because it cuts off all the little, because they were just going back and forth with midpads, and they couldn't cut through. Right, that works, and fair play. But I think Frankie makes a great point. But when the onus is on us to attack or be a little bit more probing, it looked a little bit like clunky, didn't it?
Well, we'll need to again.
The other thing with Jammer is the size of the Wembley pitch.
Yeah.
Right. Playing as a lone striker, Jammer, with his mobility issues, for want of a better phrase, I think that could be a potential problem. I think the question comes down to, does Matt think he's too big a miss in terms of his presence on the pitch? And as you said, Frankie's defensive work versus the attacking threat and having a mobile team. But yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah, agree. I think I'm in no doubt Jammer will start the game. I think what will be important is when he changes it and how he changes it. But I'm absolutely sure he'll start the game. And I'd love him to score and make us all sound like we don't know what we're talking about. But that would be my one reservation about that formation. And I think just backing up what Frankie's just said, I think you've got to look at certain players that have come in the last month, like Chang and Asimwe, and the mystery of why it took so long for them to get into the team will be one of the questions that he'll have to answer if we don't finish the job next Monday.
Yeah, I think we've heard about why Alfie Chang wasn't straight in, because when he arrived he wasn't fit, but they took the gamble that they could sort of get him fit and get him in. George Hall, I think the former George Hall has obviously been massive for us. Asimwe has sort of been a step up on Connor Barrett, I think mainly due to Connor Barrett sort of just being exhausted. But I think there's one player I'd almost written off, Liam Gordon. He's been absolutely brilliant the last 2 games. Liam Gordon. He's sort of, it's like all the energy that he'd run out of, he sort of found it in the corner and then he sort of grabbed it again. He's been brilliant, I think. And Jamie Jellis, to be honest.
I think Jellis is superb. Yeah, but I think with Gordon, I think it's classic Liam Gordon. His effort, energy levels, but he does my head in with his final ball. Like there's a couple occasions on Monday where you just do a simple pass or cross it, and it's the first man or what have you. But like you said, Simon, to take his energy and getting up and down, I'm not surprised he was shattered, to be honest, because he's had a brilliant season.
Yeah. And the thing is, we've got players on the bench who just haven't had a sniff. Like Evan Weir, I think, would have been great in there. Whether Evan Weir's the guy for a really big pitch, I think probably not. But we talk about Wimbledon and how good they are defensively. We've got to remember that it's a much bigger pitch, so there's bigger challenges for them as well. So I think Wembley perhaps doesn't suit Walsall or Wimbledon with the size of the pitch. So it's a managerial masterclass for whoever adjusts it and pulls it all together.
One thing, Simon, as well, is we get to see Hot Pants Man again in defence for Wimbledon. Lewis, what's his name?
It is Lewis, yeah.
Lewis, the bloke with hot pants, he wears like short shorts. That's a spectacle in itself, isn't it?
He's obviously very proud of his legs, isn't he? Yeah.
You've got to look him up, Google him, Simon.
I was going to say, I don't know who you mean, but I mean, yeah, Lewis Hot Pants Man.
I knew what you mean, Darren.
I don't know whether I want to be putting that into my search history, to be honest.
No.
So we mentioned Jammer. Little mention here from Chris Smith. Where's Harrison gone? He's been released by MK Dons. I don't think he's the answer, though. Is he there? He's got more legs than Jammer, but
no.
Defensively,
I think...
as Frankie quite rightly said, he's a massive benefit defending set pieces, Jammer.
I think in terms of the squad, and I'm thinking the starting 11 and the bench, I don't think we'll see any changes to the starting 11 that we saw in the first two playoff games. I'm pretty sure that will be the starting 11. If you look at the bench, the bench, I was writing it down earlier. The bench on Friday was Hornby, Adoma, Daniels, Comley, Amanchi, Lakin, and Josh Gordon. Now, the only other one who's back, who you could potentially see coming onto the bench there, is possibly Connor Barrett. Obviously, he's back from suspension. But if you put him on the bench, which of those 7 are you taking off the bench? Yeah. Obviously, he's got to keep it balanced. I suppose you could maybe make an argument for taking one of the strikers off, but I don't know. I think it's going to be pretty much as you were for Friday. I can't see DJ being there. Can't see Harrison being there. Can't see Wheatley being there. I think their race is run as far as their is concerned.
Do you think I'm dreaming that Ethan Wheatley will be good on a really big pitch?
Well, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not
convinced. I'm not convinced to get a start, but I
don't think he'll be in the squad, mate. I really don't. If he thought he could do something, he'd have had him in for the playoff games up to now. Yeah. I think his race is run.
The size of the Wembley pitch might make Levi look like he has a good first touch. He's probably a good guy for that big pitch, isn't he, Levi? Because he's got some movement to him. He doesn't like chasing down the same as Jammer does, but
I don't know what the others think, Simon. I still don't know what to make of him. He's a weird player, isn't he? He's got moments where you think, oh, he looks, and then other moments where he looks like an absolute camel. I really don't know what to make of him.
I think that summed up when he tried to take his shirt off. That was hilarious.
I feel like with him, if we do go up into League One, I feel like a season at Drogheda might be a good option for him. Because I would struggle to believe in League One he'd like be ready, whereas in League Two, okay, he scored 3 or 4, hasn't he? But I think depending on the division, we might need to think about his development and where I think he needs to play personally.
Yeah. I heard someone describe him. I think it might have been on one of the other podcasts or one of the other things that it was described as a big ball of chaos. And I thought that was a really good way of describing him.
Well, there's a guy on the fan reaction called him sort of Bambi on ice. That's the thing is, he's unpredictable, isn't he? But comment here from Andy Phillips. Dons will try to bully whoever plays up front, and Amanchi, he's not really a guy you expect to stand up to that. Where Jammer would cope with that handsomely and still be winning the balls in the air. Amanchi, perhaps not so much.
Do you know on that thing? Do we know why Ollie Banks went mad at Jammer? Do you know?
I've seen him.
What was all that about?
I've seen him back, and he Jammer was like catching a man, and Banks is standing still, and he runs into him, and then Ollie Banks just goes mental, and I think it's
went mad, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was to get into the fan's head or the player's head.
Oh, we definitely got to Ollie Banks' head. That was fantastic. I think, but we got them.
I thought Ollie Banks had sort of seen Jammer running and sort of blocked his path a little bit to try and stop him running round. I think that's what it was.
It was just a real over the top reaction. So it made me think there was something more to it. But it was
I think he might have it. The way he was kind of gesturing was almost that he'd said something to him. I don't know what it was. And it looked as though the referee went over and reported something to the fourth official as well. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, whatever he did or said to him, it's a while since I've seen a player get that riled up on a pitch.
He was liking for the rest of completely so fair play. I mean, it was strange, that was. And do you know when they all ran out at kickoff as well? The Chesterfield players.
And it came out, yeah. That was a bit of a strange one. Neil's comment, quite like that. Sturk's found his mojo since Chang's alongside him. Yeah, Sturk, I thought he was my man of the match. He was my Liam Winders man of the match on the Friday. In the playoffs, Sadler's had 24% possession, Wimbledon 26%. So neither team want the ball. So who'll be the 5 penalty takers for the shootout?
It'd be really tight. I think.
I agree. I think I can see it going all the way to penalties. I really can. I think it's going to be such a tight game.
Yeah, it's not going to be an easy, comfortable game. I don't think we'd expect that, would we?
And Fallen Maniacs talking about Hot Pants Man again. Yeah, Simon, Joe Lewis.
How is that Joe Lewis? Is that it?
Yeah.
Joe Lewis.
So, Simon, is there VAR in the final?
Yeah.
Oh.
What is there?
Don't play Jammer then. If you got to VAR, you want your footwork players, don't you? You want your Adoma, your Ram players who are going to take players on near the edge of the box.
Do you know what? I was watching Ram warming up because he was out with the squad. Some of the shots he was hitting into like top corner, like it was unbelievable. Jesus, like what a player! But yeah, we know you love Ram.
He's not going to come into the squad now.
No chance.
But I think it'd be great if he did. But I mean, oh dear, it's one of them, isn't it? Yeah. Say Dons will try to bully whoever's up front.
Can I just go back to the comment about Sturk and Chang? I totally agree. With the previous message, and I actually think, and we'll say this quietly because I know he's not the most popular player, but I actually think Brandon Comley's done a good job when he's come on in both games of the playoff games. I thought he's done everything that was required of him in both games. I think. And as we alluded to earlier, I think Matt Sadler's made good substitutions. I think certainly on Friday night he made the right changes at the right time, and all the players that came on made a contribution in some way to help us win the game.
Why has Matt Sadler suddenly started making great substitutions then? And why did he change the box midfield after we'd gone 9 or 10 without a win?
I think he was just changing stuff until something worked, personally.
Yeah.
given what happened the previous 9 weeks. But that's maybe a little unfair. But fair, he found something that's a little bit. I think he was looking for something that was a bit more solid, to be honest with you. And it's kind of grown from that point. And he wanted to get Chang in, he wanted to get Hall in, not completely fit. So you play them as 10s behind a striker. So, but if you look. If you look at the goals conceded, that has gone down the last 4 or 5 games. But like Bill said earlier, I think we do miss a little bit, perhaps, mobility up front at a cost.
Well, I'd argue early in the season he did make decent subs. He made some really good subs early in the season, and then he lost confidence and whatever. He lost his confidence to make proper worth changing subs, and it all goes down to the game against Crewe, and that was the win. And it just seems though we just needed a win to turn the tide, and it's just the confidence in the whole team is so different. Because on Sunday, when the players came over, Jealous, he was happy, but he wasn't he used to swing his fingers and do all his little tricks. But he came over and his head was so straight, and they were so fixated on getting through and probably getting promoted.
Yeah,
there is such a different change from a side of players who look down upon themselves to players who have confidence and want to do. It's such a that Crewe game has changed everything really.
I think going on the substitutions as well, Sam. I think earlier on in the season, Sadler had quite a few go-to substitutions, didn't he? And we've spoken before about having Jealous and Lakin being replaced by Earing and Hall, which was a bit of a go-to substitution that he had. And then obviously one of the strikers would switch it around. I think when he lost Earing and Hall and he didn't have those kind of go-to substitutions, I think that maybe threw him a little bit in terms of who to replace and how to replace them, and whether to tweak things a little bit. But I think now, obviously we've got the formation that we've got, and I think that the players that are now fit again can dovetail a bit better with the players that he switches in and out.
Yeah. I think it sort of sounds like a bit of a weird line, but I think Hall and Earing getting injured had a bigger effect than losing Nathan Lowe.
I mean, I think it was integral. We've spoken about this since December, January, haven't we? About Hall and Earing and that, rotating them. It wasn't just, losing Nathan Lowe was massive. Of course it was. He was the best player in the division at the time. But that, it didn't cause a 13-game winless run, did it? I think having that, go back to the recruitment in January. Again, this isn't hindsight. We said this in January. We needed proper number 8s coming in, and for that reason, to rotate.
Experienced attacking midfielder. Yeah,
we did. I think. Look again. This is in hindsight, but looking at it, it looks to me like we're 15 points clear. We didn't need to go and spend the money so much in terms of paying the money to get someone in of that experience, and maybe they rested on their laurels slightly. I think. But because to be fair, no one in January thought we'd go on a 2 wins in 21 or what have you.
I think we talked about this, didn't we? We talked about this before. In January, when you're trying to talk to players, you couldn't guarantee them any minutes. If you're going to bring a player from League One who's not getting game time to Walsall, it's we'll be able to get minutes. Well, I can't guarantee him getting any minutes. So so you don't get the player, do you? And that's I think was the problem.
I thought we should have been in the starting player personally, at number 8, number 10. But that's
the experienced head to help. The thing is, as you say, we didn't expect the confidence and the energy to sort of drop out of us to a massive effect.
I thought we'd have a blip, but I don't think any of us thought it would be the blip that we experienced.
No.
I just hope we can finish the job now. I just hope we can finish the job at Wembley and get up. That's the thing, isn't it? Because nobody wants to reset back in League Two from next season. Right then, question about the tickets. I don't think it's worth going to the ground for tickets. I think we got plenty of time and there's plenty of tickets. So I don't think there's any panic about getting straight on booking tickets. We're not going to sell 100,000 tickets. So I don't think there's any panic. So any time during the week, and I think the club have said online is sort of the best. But I know that it does crash, or do they switch it off when there's a big queue outside? I don't know. It's one of the two. Dan Azza, if we win and get League Two, I'll get 2 fans' pair of tickets for the first home game. How about that? Nice one. Just bring your mates down. That's what we want to do. Fallen Maniac, do any of you think Sadler carries the box midfield into next season, or is it a temporary patch-up like the 4-2-3-1 was last season when we had 3 fit centre-backs?
I don't know. Is the answer to that? I feel like the formation that he likes is that 3-5-2, and I think having players of the quality of Chang and Hall to play in that box makes it work. Whether we can attract that sort of player next season and on which league we're in, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think his go-to formation will be the one holding midfielder and the 2 number 8s with the 2 strikers. I personally prefer to see 2 strikers on the pitch. I don't like 1 striker, but I think when you've got a player like Hall who's got pace and can get forward and support a solo striker, it works a little bit better. But I think I think it might be a formation we see a bit more of, particularly in games. Maybe you might use it away from home a little bit more when he's perhaps trying to be a bit more defensive. But I think again, and a lot of it will depend on personnel, who's there and who isn't there next season, and whether we go up or not, and then looking at who stays, who goes, and who tries to bring in.
I think I might be putting a video out on this subject at some point, but the possession model that we've seen Notts County, Chesterfield, and MK Dons particularly going crazy with, is that failing? Should Walsall try and increase their possession, or do you think we should carry on as we are going into next season, Frankie?
I think it did work this season because we had the players and we were very crucial. And when it worked, it really worked. But as we've seen, when you're losing games or you're on the back foot and you need to get goals, sometimes the best way to, or even if you like against like Port Vale or goal up, you just need to have that possession to control the game. And you don't need to have 80% possession. You can just have, some games have below 50, some games have above 50. I'd just like to see a game where we have like 50 something possession again in a season. It's just, there are some times in a game you need to have possession, and there are some times where it doesn't matter, and that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
I still think our Achilles heel, and Darren alluded to this earlier on, is when we go behind in games and teams sit in and go, right, come and break us down. I still think that's our biggest problem that we have, where it's almost like we've got possession and, well, what do we do with it, kind of thing. So I do think that's still an issue that we need to look at for next season. I'm quite happy to sit there and watch teams like Chesterfield and Notts County pop the ball around in their own half, it's to me it's just a waste, and I think that possession just for the sake of possession, I think people are starting to see through that model a little bit more, and I think it's I that was the one reason why I wanted us to play Notts County in the final rather than Wimbledon, because I think it would suit us the way we set up to play against a team like that. But yeah, for me, our issue is games where we fall behind, teams sit in and say, right, come and break us down. Still think we struggle to do that too often.
Yeah.
So
I think. Go on, Darren.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like, just the way I like playing football, I like to see teams keep it. But the point of possession, it should be purposeful, right? Yeah. Like, even if you are a possession-based team, you've got to be trying to push the opposition, get them out of their comfort zone. Perfect example of this, I can't believe I'm about to talk about this on Walsall Fan TV, is PSG this year. If you look at PSG, right, just to illustrate the point, you look at a lot of teams like Real Madrid this year, for example. They keep the ball, but it's a bit slow. It's a bit like Chesterfield. I know it's a ridiculous example, but just go passing around, passing at the back. PSG, they keep it, but they go. they really push on, right? And obviously we're not going to play like PSG or anything like that. But like I think possession works if it's positive and you're trying to push forward. If you're just knocking it around the back, like Phil said, then that's not purposeful, right? And that's a waste of time. So yeah. I mean, I'd like us to keep the ball. We've got some great technicians, in my opinion, who are all good on the ball, but we know what Sadler's style is. I think in League One that would have to evolve. Personally, I don't think we could get away. You look at the teams atop of a League One, they tend to be more possession-based teams, apart from Wrexham, but they still keep the ball 45-50% of the time. So I think it's just having that, like, plan B, as Phil alluded to.
Yeah, I think that, and the point that's been put there, I think, going a whole season with around about 25% possession per game is really going to catch up with us eventually.
I said after on the Fleetwood game where we lost 6-2, I remember being on up the Sadlers and I put, it's there in black and white, I worry that we can keep this on keep playing this way all season. And I feel like that's what happened personally. They just got absolutely shattered.
Yeah,
so you've got to be able to take the heat out of a game and just keep it a little bit. I think that's
the problem. That's the problem. We can't just hold on to the ball.
No.
And it's nice when we're playing teams like Notts County and the likes who pass it round until we take it off them. But we don't want to sort of get into that mess where we're just passing around the back three till we lose the ball. But I mean, when we're on the attack, sort of being able to pass the ball and keep ball a little bit, that's something we need to be able to do. So that's part of the plan B, I guess, that Matt Sadler needs to be working on. We are a bit nervous as we hear through the academy that they all play in the same way, regardless of what the score is, and not adapting to the situations within a game. So I am a little bit concerned about that. So
I think we should be able to deal with different situations personally.
Yeah, I think it's too simplistic to just try and play just one way.
And football, we said this last time, didn't we? Football changes. The way we're playing now, or football is now, 10 years time, it's going to be different. It's evolved. It's changed.
Yeah. You've got to move with the times, haven't you? Having playing 4-4-2 and having two guys up front, a big guy with a spacey finisher beside of him, Kyle Lightbourne, Kevin Wilson, like that sort of thing. I think they say football styles change, but I mean, I'd always like to have that kind of setup up front as an option. And
I'd love to
having a pacey striker, particularly if we are struggling to get out. Particularly if we do get promoted, we're going to need some really pacey guy who can really sort of unsettle teams to get us back up the field, sort of thing. I wonder if Tom Knowles is available again.
No.
No, thank you.
No. Nice bloke.
Yeah.
The end product worse than Liam Gordon, which is saying something. So there we go.
Pointless.
I think Amanchi. I'll come back on to Amanchi. I know we sort of had a few questions on him. I think he's got a great opportunity to improve. I think he's getting more game time now. Obviously, he was sort of had an injury and was frozen out at Bromley, but he's getting game time now. His return for goals is decent. Obviously, there was that one chance he missed on Friday, but I mean, he got the header to win it. He scored some useful goals for us, and a little bit more training and development could become a full-time replacement for Jammer, perhaps. What do you think? Or do you think we need somebody else for next season?
Oh, definitely someone else. And can we just already say this? Can we have a permanent striker that doesn't go back in January?
Yeah.
But joking aside, that should be the fact that it's happened 3 seasons running is a bit concerning. But that's got to be top of the list, like the recruitment of forwards. So yeah, it can't happen again.
But that's the expensive bit, though, isn't it?
Tough. That if we go into League One, I'm telling you now, we're going to need definite uplift in recruitment. Because League One, look at the teams in League One now. Like, if we want to compete, to be fair, Ben Boycott was asked that at the last fans forum, if you remember. You know, would we have the funds?
Our fans forum, I remember them.
Oh yeah, well, fans forum. It's funny how that's been one organised for a while, isn't it? I remember him saying, like, look, we could, you know, they've just spent 18 million on Silkeborg, so there is money. So I think we've got this kind of like Stockholm syndrome or something where we think we're little Walsall, right, and we don't spend money. And if we really want to push on, I'm not saying spending millions and stuff, but you know, if we can make key signings, I think that's going to be important next year. If we're in League One, of course, I think.
Yeah, I think we don't want to get carried away with that because that's there's still lots to go for that. But if we are getting excited, we can think about a certain player who's not getting minutes. Emre Tezgel.
Yeah, I've heard his name mentioned a few times. I don't know. I've not seen him play. I think there was a comment.
He did well for MK Dons. When they took Nathan Lowe back, we should have had him because he was going to get minutes when Nathan Lowe went back.
Yeah, there was a comment that popped up a few comments ago about, you know, the potential of getting Nathan Lowe back next season. I do think that's something that they'll look to do next season if we get promoted. I really do. But again, I can't see it being anything other than a loan, which creates the same issue that we've just talked about losing him or potentially losing him in January. And I agree with pretty much all the comments about Levi. Yeah, he's raw. He's got potential to develop. What I liked about him on Friday is that he didn't seem to let the miss affect him. He was still showing for the ball. A few minutes later, he had that run into the box and shot with his left foot that went just wide. And then obviously got the goal at the end. So he keeps going. He keeps getting in position. And I think he's got 4 goals now, hasn't he? He's got. I like the way he took his goal at Bromley with his back to goal and the way he swiveled and stuck it in. Scored against Vale.
I think the way. The one he put in against Bromley, that was quite DJ-like, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a good finish. So yeah, he's like we said earlier, he's shown moments of real promise. He's also shown moments of I guess you got to take that with a young player coming through. And can I just pick up on a comment that came up a few comments ago about Akagbu?
Yeah.
And we were talking about playing the ball out from the back, and that's still an area of his game that I think he needs to work on to get much better at. But I don't know about what other people think. I think Akagbu gets a lot of unfair stick. One thing he can do is defend, and I think he's defended very well for the most part of the season, but certainly in the playoff games, I think his defensive work's been good. And yeah, I agree. His passing out the back is not a strength, and it's something he needs to work on. But I think defensively, most of the time, I quite like his work. Don't know what other people think about that, but it's my opinion.
Well, I think first half of the season, some of the balls he was playing down the channels for Connor Barrett were really good. So I think during our bad spell, I think you could sort of write off every one of our players. You look at what they did in the first half of the season, you'd say they're all ready for League One. So it's one of them, isn't it?
I think he's very League Two at the moment in terms of ball comes in, he heads it away. That's his job.
Yeah.
Again, if we're in League One and there's a little bit more of an onus on being comfortable on the ball, a little bit more, I worry about that. But saying that, Ian Roper, again, football changed, but Ian Roper wasn't like Pirlo on the ball, was he? So.
Well, I mean, Dan Scott. Dan Scott wasn't a baller either, and he did very good. Yeah. Right then, so thinking now before we close, Wembley, it's definitely going to be a tight affair. But I think
I don't know.
With the upturn in form, I think are we favourites?
No, but I like that.
So equal. I just think it's so even. Like
I like being the underdogs. It felt weird not being the underdogs this season, and
I
finally
still
becoming.
thought we were the underdog on Friday.
And that's what Sudo says. Chesterfield in the first leg, we were the underdogs, and that's why we came out on top, because we had less pressure than they had, and we can deal with that. We can't deal with a bunch of pressure. When we were top of the league, we had the pressure of you're gonna bottle this again, aren't you? It's gonna be a big bottle, but the pressure is probably a bit less, hopefully, and it's more on them. And I it's a good feeling. Walsall have always been underdogs, and we're back where we should be, the perennial underdogs.
Yeah, and the best way to stay underdogs is to get promoted to League One, isn't it? Final word, Phil.
Yeah, just picking up on what Frankie said there. I think it's interesting. Like, if you go back to the start of the playoffs, Chesterfield were most people's pick, weren't they? They were the informed team, and most experts, in inverted commas, had them down to be the team that would go on to the final and get promoted. But yeah, not so much of it. I think we've surprised a few people in regathering ourselves and going again in the playoffs, and it's certainly given me more hope that we can get the job done. But I go back to what I said earlier. I think it's going to be an incredibly tight game. I can see it going to extra time. I can see it going all the way to penalties, and then who knows? But I'm just hoping that we can just find a moment somewhere, maybe another Taylor Allen free kick, maybe an Amanchi 30-yarder. He has a good. I don't care what it is. I don't care who gives us the moment. But I'm just hoping that we keep it tight and someone finds something somewhere to get us over the line.
Yeah, nice one.
I have a question for everyone. You know how Chesterfield tickets were quite the way they're structuring, and not a lot of fans. Luckily, I went, but how it was very restrictive, and it ended up with you had to have 3 season ticket in 3 away games. Do you think they should have done better? That was a massive problem.
The problem was the system, mate, because we had, should I say, season ticket and 3+ away games, and it didn't let me buy anything. So I think that was down to the system. And I was on the phone for 2.5 hours and couldn't get a ticket. So I wasn't very happy. After that. And that happened to a few people who I know personally, not like off Twitter.
It happened to me as well. I went on to get one online, and it said that I didn't qualify when I did. And then
another one I know.
With the nature of my job, I can't spend all morning on the phone waiting to get through. So I didn't get a ticket. So I was disappointed with that, and I think that's something that, again, the club can look to do better on next time. But it's unusual, isn't it? Being Walsall fans, we're not used to not getting tickets for games. Usually, if you want to go to a Walsall game, you can get a ticket. So it's going into sort of. But yeah, I know I've seen people talking about looking at it for next season, maybe some kind of point system or something like that. I think they need to look at it so the same thing doesn't happen again.
Yeah. I obviously was similar for myself. I couldn't queue because of an appointment in Manchester. And thankfully, SNS Steelstock managed to get a couple of tickets for me. So
it's not what you know to you.
Yeah, I see.
I was very appreciative, because I was gutted that you have people ring you up and they say, "Oh, you're going to be at the game, aren't you?" It's like, well, actually, at the minute, I'm not. So it's a difficult one.
And can I ask as well? How did Milan Lalkovic and Smith get tickets?
Oh,
what's all that about?
That's connect. What did you say? Who you know, what you know. That's
it's not.
That's it.
You know who you know. Yeah.
Final words. Come on, the Sadlers. So just final then. Matt Sadler, massive credit for pulling us out of the slump. Obviously, there's criticism for getting us in it, but pulling us out of it, and it's now cup final tactics, and being able to work out how to beat Wimbledon. So over to you, Matt Sadler, to help us finish the job. So it's going to be fun. Nice one.
I'll say at the end of that game, the players loved the feeling. You can see how much they love that. And I'll say one thing to those players: if you like that feeling of sitting on the Walsall fan shoulders and jumping up and down, then you're going to put that effort and put an effort in on Monday. And when you get that win, you will be legends for this club. And you'll be able to return to this club whenever you want. And you can sit on any man's shoulders you want.
That's it.
Within reason.
Getting yourself into the history books, isn't it? And I think Tyler Allen's speech obviously was very emotive and very strong.
Next year for me.
Yeah. But to be able to put that stake on your CV of what you achieved, like you can never take that away. Everybody wants a promotion on the CV. Hence why Nathan Lowe was so annoyed that he got pulled back, because he'd have had a promotion on his CV, he'd have had his golden boot. So it's a frustrating one, but Walsall just need to seize the moment and get that breakthrough. And I know we mentioned Albert Adoma to get the winner. I think Amanchi is going to be the star.
Okay.
Final word then, Daz, just as we finish.
Yeah, I just really hope we do it now. I think, whatever happens, we get over it and the post-mortem can wait a few weeks, good or bad. Right, as you know, I'm normally quite grumpy about stuff, but I think
really?
I'm not going to get into them if it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, we can go and celebrate. I'll be on holiday celebrating quite a bit. So I just hope we do it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just hope we do it.
That's it. Phil, final word.
Final word, yeah. Sing loud, sing proud, back the boys. Conversations about what happens afterwards are for another day. It's all about next Monday. Just everybody who can get there and back the boys, and let's hope we celebrate next Monday night.
We certainly hope so. Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for our partners and sponsors, Leemore Windows, S&S Steel Stock, Smash Burgers, Cleaning with Class, M&H Gardening Services, our new one of our new sponsors. So thanks for all those guys. Thanks for supporting the channel. We'll be back. Thanks for watching. Cheers.